Welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Dingers podcast. We are back, Doc. We are through some of the busier time of your life and back to baseball. What's going on?
Yeah, man, just been traveling around state to state doing crazy things. Just trying to figure out where my life's going from here. Maybe the millions I've been raking in.
Hanging out with around our test, the big guys.
No, I mean doing my fantasy baseball stuff. That's where you make the millions of dollars, man. That's right. I thought we
Yeah,
were all millionaires
this
from
is the big,
fantasy.
big spenders. Yeah.
Yeah, frankly, it's not enough. I'm trying to be a billionaire, so I'm gonna try to move on and see what else I can do in the world. It's a time of transition. I got another baby coming. In late January, early February. I know I'm not really showing yet. My wife mostly. We're doing stand-up comedy here. This is great. Apparently, I'm feeling good. Got a
You're
cigar,
feeling
folks.
good.
It's great to see
Yeah.
y'all again. A little bit. How long have we been off air for?
3 weeks, 4 weeks.
3 weeks. So it's our fault that Trump got elected. This is great. Everyone's gonna be really happy with us, right?
Yeah, as we talked, you and I do this show. We are part of Scout the Statline, but we all have our different opinions and have the right to those opinions. So, um, yeah, we are back though, and big news. I think we'll just start the show off with Roki Sasaki being I guess posted sooner than later is the expectation. This was news that we had kind of talked about through the last year. Um, there was idea that this wouldn't happen just because of the age and because of the posting fee that his team will get, which is smaller because he's under 25, but it is happening. What are your thoughts on Sasaki being posted?
Well, I saw something today. I think it was Eric Cross, and I know Ross is really high on him too. Our guy, Ross Jensen, Scout the Statline fame. Ross, I think, has him as his number one overall prospect right now, um, which is fair. I think I saw Eric Cross just posting him as like the number three overall dynasty arm, like after Skeens and
Ski and
Screwball.
Screwball,
I
yeah.
believe that's correct. That he did that. That's crazy to me, just because we haven't seen him throw in America. We don't know what that's going to be like. From what I understand, there's a dead ball era going on overseas right now in Japan. Have you heard this?
Yeah, Sasaki on top of that did lose velocity in the fastball this year. Did expand his extension. There's Baseball America did a couple great episodes on just Sasaki in general, and they brought up some concerning issues. Right, their job was to take the 360 approach on it and look at the positives and look at the bad. And it hasn't pitched over. I think it was 130 innings in a season, losing 2 inches of horizontal or vertical break on that fastball. There's a lot of things that would say, "Hey, we need to monitor this," because when Otani came over, the timing was interesting, and then he had to have Tommy John because he had torn UCL.
Mm.
So I don't want to poo-poo Sasaki and say, "Oh, he's definitely injured," but he's thrown 101. His average fastball velocity was 99 last year. Now it's down into the 97s. Um,
That's reflected in his K9. Went in 2022 he had a 12.0
mm,
K9, 13.4 the next year, and then last year 10.5. And now that's the MLB; those are all great, but it's not. Especially if it's a dead ball kind of era they're
yep.
entering in there. What does that mean? Is he gonna be a 7 or 8 strikeout per nine guy here? We don't know. And again, not to say he's going to be a bust or anything like that, but just to call him, and also not attacking Mr. Cross or anyone who's super high on him. I hope he's an electric, piece of the MLB story, right? That'd be so great. He's only 23 years old, plenty of upside here. Very excited about him in general, but just throwing it out there, folks. If you have the rights to draft him, if you have him somehow in your league already, and people are throwing you, if they're throwing you like some kind of deal involving a Skeens or a Screwball or as an existing bat maybe who like a Gunnar Henderson, if someone's going crazy and is giving you this insane offer for the potential of a superstar, when they're giving you a superstar, it's the whole, hey, we could pick the boat or the mystery box.
Hmm.
Who knows? It could even be a boat. It's the classic Family Guy move. And so just warning to y'all, there could be some bumps in the road.
It's interesting. Value is going to be really hard to assess, as you talked about, with a big time offer coming in. I actually, in a 20-man, offered a 1-2. So the first round, I have the second pick. Then the second and third, I obviously have the second pick of those rounds as well. So I offered my 1-2, my 2-2, and my 3-2 just for the 1-1. and was told, "I'm so sorry, it will take Roman Anthony and your 1-2." And I said, "I would not trade you Roman Anthony for Sasaki even at that. You're not getting and whether Holt, Bazana, Kurtz, whoever at that 1-2 position." So I think that is definitely the value in the beholder. If this were Paul Skeens, and we knew Paul Skeens was going to be Paul Skeens, I think I'm more comfortable maybe trading an Anthony and slash Bazana. But some of the concerns that Baseball America brought up were concerns that I had, and we'll see. I need you to pitch a little bit more, and like the drop in velocity on top of, you brought up the K9, like that's damning. And I also think there's another piece of this, which just could be the simple fact that he still has a lot to learn about pitching, which is exciting.
Yeah, in America, it's like it can be a different beast. Obviously, Yamamoto adjusted pretty well, had some bumps in the road to start. It's interesting though. Skeens got knocked down a fair bit last year because of him just being a pitcher in FYPDs, and then the fastball shape, which is comical in hindsight, right? I saw like a draft write up today. I think it was about Brody Brecht. And they're like, oh yeah, he's actually got better shape than Paul Skeens, which we're still worried about. I'm like, what do you mean you're still no? The shape, whatever shape it is a good shape. Everyone should have that shape. It's like, no, it's just obviously there's things about location and things like there's issues like location, but it's just very interesting to me that Skeens got knocked down just for basically being a pitcher with some mild questions, and then Sasaki, I guess it's just the shiny object, right? The new thing.
Well, it also it also helps that the class isn't as strong, right? Skeens last year and Skeens this year. If you put Skeens in this class, it's Sasaki and Skeens. People are debating who's better. And I think that's Bazana, Weather, Holt, Caglione, Kurtz. Like they're not as strong as last year. But I'm not gonna lie, like he's my easy 1-1 in FYPD. It's not even close. I think we have to gauge what the value is to try and go get him at 1-1 if you want,
Mm-hmm.
but is a significant margin. He is 1-1.
I can see that. Yeah, I believe he likely is the 1-1.
All right, well, that is our Rōki Sasaki talk. We're going to kind of move into just a little bit of hearsay before we jump into the Scout the Statline top 10 catchers of the 2024 season. First up, Soto met with the Mets. I guess the Mets more or less met with Soto because they came out to talk with him. Polar Pete is also being talked about as kind of in the package with Soto, with Boris, and the negotiating table. What are your thoughts on both Soto and Pete Alonso if they were to leave their respective teams for fantasy value?
Wow. I mean, it's interesting with Soto. We saw these people saying, "Oh, bunch of geeks." Really, no. People were breaking down the numbers because the idea was short porch. He'll probably bash out some more home runs, which he did. But there are people trying to show numbers suggesting that's not necessarily the case with people who come over to New York. I don't know. Maybe maybe the result was not from correlation, wasn't causation, whatever. I don't know. Right? It happened. It happened in New York. He unleashed 40 plus power, and that was great to see. I think Alonso has the power that plays anywhere, so I'm not really concerned about his landing spot. Soto is just such a. I don't think I really care about their landing spots. Yeah, because we've seen Alonso produce with good lineups and bad lineups. Of course, you want to have more bodies in front of him. I don't think he's going to go anywhere where he doesn't have a good chance of winning. So, for both of them, really, yeah, I don't think either of them are going to, these startup teams. I don't, they're going to be very expensive. So that also narrows down the list considerably. I don't know what's going to happen, man.
Where would you rather see Soto? Would you rather see Soto in with the Mets or with the Yankees?
What if they just swap? What if they end up just switching teams?
Yeah,
That'd be funny. I mean,
from a fantasy perspective, I like it for Alonso.
Yeah.
From a real baseball perspective, that's a huge downgrade.
Yeah, that would be crazy though. That New York would lose their minds.
Yeah, it'll be
It kind of makes sense.
Well, I mean, I think Soto wants to probably be the guy, but it's hard because you have Frankie Lindor with the Mets, right? And I think Soto ultimately is the guy if he makes that decision. But Judge in New York it's always going to be like big brother, little brother.
I mean, physically, just like
yeah.
I mean, You want, hey man, listen, I'm the boss. You know, it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough. It's one thing if he's big and he's like kind of dumb or like doesn't isn't that good, but he's elite and he's really intelligent and he's huge. It's like, yeah, no, you're the captain. Okay.
There was the video in game 5 when Judge hit the home run. They were talking in the dugout and they were having fun. And I was like, whoa, like Soto's an athlete, right? He's an elite level baseball player. And he's next to Aaron Judge. He looks like this little gnat kind of just roaming around. And it's like,
Yeah.
that says a lot about the physical presence you talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Last name I want to talk about free agency before we jump into the catchers. Corbin Burns is also being rumored to the Yankees. Is there anywhere you want Burns to land for fantasy value? Is there anywhere you don't want him to
Is
land for
there
fantasy
is
value?
there like no chance he's returning to Baltimore?
There is this is rumor mill. So,
I think he needs to stay there. They need pitching. They need
yeah,
to steer. They need to steady that ship. And
I've heard 7 years, 200 is kind of what he's asking. And that's not outrageous. And I think Baltimore should pay it.
mm,
But we'll see. It's a lot of money for a team that doesn't want to spend any money.
okay.
Yes. So, anyways, for Burns, is there any teams that you would like outside of Baltimore?
Well, I mean, out of the AL East would be better in
Yeah.
terms of fantasy. Who's going to pay up? I'm really interested in the Kansas City Royals, what they're going to do, because they're clearly a threat. They look like a team that, man, if they just want to, if they are open to spending on one or two guys, what's the ceiling here, right? What do we have? I don't know if Burns is that guy. I'm not sure if it's pitching necessarily. That's the biggest issue. But obviously, you don't turn down a Burns. They seem very capable. You know, how long is Boston going to want to sit back for? I think you're gonna. If Boston was wise, they would wait until their youth movement kind of creeps up a bit more. Just trying to think of the big market teams. I'm not sure, man. I really like him as an Oriole. That's where I'd like to see him. How about yourself?
Yeah, I would like to see him stay in Baltimore. We saw Rodon take a big step back going to New York. Sherman actually did okay, but the ballpark you talked about with Soto and the impact of his home runs in the short porch. I don't want to see any pitcher really go there. I think Garrett Cole's done pretty good for pitching in Yankee Stadium, as well as the AL East. You bring that up is key too. It's a tough division. It's only going to get tougher as the Red Sox start to bring some of these kids up and as some of the Orioles develop. So I think with the Orioles having the ballpark, you still have one of two. He's still in the AL East, but it does make sense. I wouldn't mind him as a Giant. We've seen that story time and time again. That'd be fun.
Yeah, any pitcher going to San Francisco, you'll like that.
Yeah. All right, let's break into the meat of the episode today, which is the 1 through 10 top Scout the Statline catchers. Now, Doc and I talked. We compiled this list. We have to make an editorial note. Maybe we missed a guy on the model that was toggled at a multi-position eligibility. We will talk about that next week. We were waiting for confirmation from Ross that these are, in fact, the model's top 10 catchers, but we're going to roll with it.
He
Number
texted me.
one.
He said they look good.
They look good? Yes. There we go. I mean, I kind of just scrolled around while we were introing today, and there's a couple names underneath. The biggest one, Jefferson Cuero, who didn't play at all. Carter Jensen, who we like a lot.
Let's talk about them. Let's give them as well. You want to go 10-1? Is that what we're doing?
What do you want to do? I like actually starting at 1.
Let's start 1, and then we'll throw those guys in at the end if we got some time.
Okay.
I love Carter Jensen. I'm a huge Carter Jensen
Yes,
fan.
I knew you'd want to talk a little bit. And then Kyle Teal follows him. So we got a couple
Yeah,
notable
that's great.
guys. Okay, number 1 is Samuel Basallo. This is going to be a pretty consensus number 1 amongst rankings as well. Basallo, 19 years old in 2024, played at AA, 16 home runs, hit 289 with 355 on base percentage, a 465 slug, played 106 games. Doc, he did fight injuries to start the year, had a fractured elbow, had some issues with his wrist, but put together a pretty darn good season. Big time helium in 2023. Are you still feeling as excited after 2024?
I'm going to be blue in the face about this. I'm going to scream it from a mountaintop. I'm going to shriek it. Samuel Basallo is just not appreciated the way he needs to be. I don't get it. It seems that people see Baltimore. They're like, oh, that's Adley Rutschman. Dude, this guy's a stud. They're not going to hold a stud back. They're going to find a spot for him. Maybe he is a first baseman who rotates in as Adley Rutschman gets toward 30 years old, keeps those knees fresh. Then you get the best of both worlds. You get a guy who's playing all the time, keeps his own knees fresh, and gets that C eligibility, making him a top 3 catching option for fantasy every year going forward, which is fantastic. In an ascending lineup, people are kind of down on the Orioles because of how they finished. I'm not down on them long term. They're going to be studs. It's going to be great. It's very exciting. And the fact that what you said is something people don't really talk about either. He went through like hand and arm injuries, and the power didn't really go anywhere. Like, what does that mean? Like, usually that's a huge issue. What's his name? Alex Kirilloff just had to retire because of his wrist injuries, which is like, I'm not really that surprised because you could see that it just his game was getting sapped. It's a real red flag. Sometimes when you have these certain injuries that keep popping up over and over again. So I will keep an eye on that, make sure he doesn't, become doesn't have the same injuries coming back and coming back. But to be a 19-year-old at AAA, and I think he's 20 now, but he's just such a young kid and he's picking it up so fast. English is not his first language. He seems like he's got great mental makeup too. I'm just excited for his future. I think somehow he's still underrated. It's actually kind of worth sending offers out at this point for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned the AAA. He did play 21 games to end the season at AAA again at age 19. That's very impressive. AAA performance wasn't incredible, but at 222, 27 strikeouts, 5 walks. So definitely seemed a little overmatched, but he did show three home run power. And that was just kind of a cup of coffee. I guess we both would probably expect this season to start the year in AAA, right, Doc? That would be the fair assumption coming into 2025.
He's going to have a shot at making the opening day roster. I don't think it'll happen, but you're going to see Samuel Basayo barring a collapse, which would be confusing. I think he'll come out fine as long as he's not hurt. I think you're going to see him in the major leagues before June 2025.
Yeah, that's lofty. 20 years old, right? That's what we look for.
What are we waiting for? They need it, dude. What were they waiting for? I don't think they necessarily needed to put him up last year, but it's like they clearly needed something. Clearly, not everything's in where it should be in Baltimore. They have to have some internal discussions of what went wrong. But adding a stud like Basayo, it's going to be interesting because Mayo had some big struggles coming up. Yep. Kierstad, like, where are they finding room for these guys? But then we have the success story, and we have Holiday who came out hot. Well, started out really bad, then it got really hot when he got called up again, and then ended off kind of cruddy. Then we got Westberg, who's a success story, but then he got hurt. People kind of almost forget about him. It's a very weird team now. I think we're going to see the perspective shift as we head toward the season, though.
Yeah. Basayo player comp on STS is Chipper Jones. Very impressive.
It's a new one. That wasn't his comp before. I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't Chipper.
Well, yeah, I don't think it was Chipper either. WRC plus at 138.5. This is full regression. Batting average 294. On base percentage 360. Slug of a 511. 26 home runs, 10 stolen bases. He's number 1 for a reason. Model really loves him. Number 2 on the list, Moises Ballesteros for the Cubs. Doc, just absolutely raking. Big Arizona Fall League performance this year too. Undersized a little bit, but I mean, he's performed every single stop in the minor leagues, and the model loves him at number 2. What are your thoughts on Ballesteros?
Well, they call him the Venezuelan bowling ball.
Is that real?
I call him that. I don't think he likes it. But that's what we're going to roll with. I've seen 5'7", 5'7", 220. Just this guy's, I mean, I don't see a problem with it. It's not that common, but he seems to be playing well. I see Pablo Sandoval written all over him, which is a guy who, Ross pointed out had a very good season. I think he had a very good season and then like a pretty good season. And then it was a lot of like, okay, like that's fine. He was a pretty much, oh, that's solid. And if you can stick at catcher, that'll play for fantasy. If he moves to first base, that's where Pablo Sandoval especially became unsexy in fantasy. But near the second half of his career, maybe the last third. But yeah, that would be my comp. He's just going to be a guy who can hit the ball. He's a ball player. I'm not really sure about how he's playing on defense. Clearly, he's playing well enough at catcher to stick there. They're giving him more catching reps than they are DH. Who's the current catcher for Chicago? I feel like they had a weird year this year.
Amaya.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if long term that's going to be an issue.
Strangely enough, he was the organization's number 1 overall prospect a few years ago.
What's his last name?
I want to say it's Amaya.
Amaya,
I
yeah.
might be pronouncing it
No,
incorrectly.
Jacob or Miguel.
I
Miguel.
think Miguel. Yeah.
Miguel. We're looking at his
There's
stats here, folks. It's been a
there's
while. It's been a
not
wild ride. I've been out of
there's
fantasy
not
baseball mode.
there's not
But no,
much
he's exactly who
competition.
I thought he was, though. Yeah, like 232, 288, a 288 OBP. It's like, you know, and there's a classic catcher who's there. He's clearly has to be good at defense. It's going to be a situation of I think you let Ballesteros, let him fight it out in spring, dude. Let him earn it this year. The Chicago wasn't that far from playoffs this year. They need a push. They need help. Put him in there if he earns it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think the value at catcher is huge, especially when we're talking fantasy here. It will change if he loses that C eligibility, but with
Mm-hmm.
them not having an Adley Rutschman, I don't see the value in them moving
Yeah,
him off, right?
15 to
That's
20 home run kind of guy, but
yep.
like could mash in 80 RBIs somehow, and just get like a 280 plus batting average. Very useful.
Yeah, you're spot on. The model has him at 129.6 WRC plus, 283 batting average, 352 on base percentage, 484 slug, 24 home runs, 4 stolen bases. You're just not going to get stolen bases with him.
I don't think you're getting. I think his peak season is 20. Yeah, that would make sense
Yeah.
as a peak projection. 24
Yep.
home runs. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Number 3, Eduardo. I'm going to say Tait, T-A-I-T. That might be the incorrect pronunciation. Philadelphia Phillies. 17 years old this past season. Scout the Statline has him coming in at number 3. His projections for peak are 124.4 WRC plus, 280, 334, 491, 27 home runs, 6 stolen bases. He's getting a very impressive Jim Edmonds player comp.
That's random.
Yes, various. What are your thoughts on Tate? What do you know about this individual?
Barely anything. He's really young. He's 17 years old. Or sorry, he's 18 years old. Just turned. He played this year at 17. That's his biggest strength right now. He ended up at A ball and he did okay at A ball. He did a lot of his damage. The reason the projections probably like him is because how well he handled rookie ball, which at 17 is still an accomplishment. He's flashing some power. I don't really know. I think this is a situation where the model is the numbers kind of crank the model a certain way. I wouldn't have him on my top 10 just because there's so many outcomes here. Yeah, there could be a high upside. But frankly, the other names we're going to talk about, I'm much more excited about because of their track record and what they've shown us and their evolution as prospects. Eduardo Tate, this is probably a 20 or 30 team league stash as opposed to, the smaller dynasty or keeper leagues out there.
Yeah, well said. I like the stash. He's rosterable, like you said, and there's a little bit of excitement, but we got to see more. But 3 is, again, as you said, the model is pumping out.
You play a whole season at 17, dude, and you end up at single A. That's very impressive.
Yeah. Next up, speaking of players that were aggressively placed based off age, number 4 is Edgar Quero, formerly of the the Angels, traded to the White Sox, and didn't do so well after that trade last year. Coming to this year, though, things did change a little bit. 16 home runs, batted 280, 70 RBIs with a 366 on base percentage and a 829 OPS. Scout the Statline has a 122.4 WRC plus projected for Quero, 20 home runs, 5 stolen bases with a 356 on base percentage. Doc, are you excited about Quero?
I am. And I'll give you one more sentence or two about Tate, just in case we have someone out there who got upset. We did not mention 5 home runs in 28 games at single A, at low
Nice.
A. So that is worth noting, and that's probably another reason the model loves him, despite the ratios that are just kind of mid. Moving on to Edgar Quero. He's the guy who I always kind of forget I like. Maybe it's because there's 2 Quero, catching prospects. Doesn't help. I feel like Jefferson gets most of the praise. Edgar almost excites me more. I think he does excite me more. This seems like there's just like a really solid. I mean, maybe we're looking at another kind of Pablo Sandoval kind of guy in terms of production. In fact, he's 5'10", 210. This is kind of the same sort of build, a couple inches taller than Mr. Ballesteros, but yeah, he's had a little bit of some ups and downs, as you said, through his minor league journey. And I don't love his organization with the Chicago White Sox. I do love his on base percentage, his ability to take a walk versus striking out. He seems to be finding that balance, and sometimes you'll have these guys that have nice OBPs but low batting averages, with Tyler Black, where we're finding out, oh, that's actually not necessarily a good thing. Like, we have to find the balance. And so, last year in 2023, we saw a 255 batting average with a 380 OBP. This year, he moved up to 280 average, 366 OBP. So it's like went down, went up. And it seems like that's a better spot. And we saw way more power. Way more power. We saw from 6 home runs, he went up to 16 home runs. And that's more in less games, including games at the AAA level. And so I'm excited by how that kind of development is showing here. That's what I mean, the evolution. And people will say, "Oh, batting average. Oh, come on, you got to do expected, WR exceed WVY plus 2. Whatever. Everyone's making up a new thing. And yes, I understand the value of metrics. We work for Scout the Statline, but there's something to be said about batting average. Kind of just represents your ability to hit a baseball. On base percentage means you have a good eye. Kind of. That's basically your idea here. So when you find that level of aggression with patience. Finding that sweet spot is when you can unlock a lot of fun with a player. 16 home runs in 98 games. It's the minor leagues, but he's in the upper minors. It's exciting. I'm seeing 20 plus power here with good ratios at the catcher position. Man, that's kind of hard to find. Usually you have a black hole at one or the other.
And the White Sox need him, right? There is absolutely nobody blocking him with kind of the conversations we were having earlier with Ballesteros and then Rutschman in Baltimore. Okay, moving on. We hit number 5 now. That's going to be Harry Ford for the Seattle Mariners. 21 years old, will be turning 22 in February. So he is getting up there now, losing that high school appeal that he had just a few years ago. Speed's still there, 35 stolen bases in 2024. Home runs dropped a little bit, 7 this season, only batted 249. Overall, the model has him with a Kevin Kiermaier comp. I don't love that. Not for a catcher. And this is where we see a really big drop off in the WRC plus 109.5 expected, 243 batting average, 351 on base percentage. So we really see the on base percentage holding heavy here. 15 home runs, 19 stolen bases. There has been some chatter that he may end up in the outfield. I don't love this star profile anymore, Doc. I think the shine has fallen off for me. What are your thoughts?
He's that guy we just talked about. 249 batting average, 377 OBP. And this has been consistent. It's not like it's a one-off. Since he was in the lower minors, since rookie ball and A ball, where he had he had really good batting average in rookie, pretty good in A. Now it's kind of fallen off. We're just seeing a guy who's not aggressive enough. So it looks really cool. Like, wow, he's taking so many walks, but you're seeing the production, the power suffer for it. 7 home runs in 116 games. That's not great. It's not great at all. The speed's still there, and you're seeing a lot of games are still giving him at catcher. He had 67 games at catcher last year, only 8 in outfield. But it's worth noting, this was the first year you saw him play any games in the outfield. So after all these years of them saying, no, he's just a catcher, they're starting to test it out, and this year will be interesting to see. He's an athlete. Everyone loves to talk about how athletic he is and how, look at him, he's stealing bases like crazy. Yeah, that's tempting as a catcher. We love to have that. Maybe it works out, but he would be a very weird catcher, guy who just probably too patient. Maybe doesn't have the power we thought he would, but just steals like 30 bases. I don't know. It's just, it'd be kind of cool to have, but I'm not sure where we're going to see him. They seem to really be interested in keeping him at catcher. So we could have this weird guy who's kind of a unicorn, just has this weird skill set, and it plays if his defense at catcher is good enough.
Well, it reminds me of the American League's Platinum Gold Glove this year, which is Dalton Varsho, right? Coming over from Arizona in that trade, who was a catcher, center fielder. Shout out University of Milwaukee, which is where he played. But now an outfielder full-time. Not nearly the fantasy value or asset that we thought he could have been because he's not a catcher-eligible player anymore. And I think Harry Ford's ceiling is probably that of Varsho, maybe his second season. Varsho definitely fell off pretty quickly in regards to that fantasy value, but it is possible. We saw it with Craig Biggio as well, jumping from catcher to other positions. You don't often see it, but you do have an athlete here in Ford. All right, moving on to number 6. This one you're excited about, Doc. I'm excited as well. And weirdly, we also have a player that may be an outfielder. Dalton Rushing coming in at number 6. Scout the Statline has Rushing as a Carlos Pena comp. Currently 23 years old. 120.2 WRC plus with peak projections at 245 average, 343 on base percentage with 27 home runs projected, 4 stolen bases. We could have a star for Los Angeles amongst many stars. What are your thoughts on Rushing?
Oh man, Dodgers needed another stud.
Yeah, I know. Darn it.
I was just thinking that, and so it's so good that they have Dalton Rushing, who had such a weird prospect trajectory, and I'm going to do my best to keep it to make it go up even higher. So it started off when he came out, and he was just, I think he had a small sample size after the draft, just destroying rookie ball and A ball. It was mostly A ball, actually. I can see here. Yeah, 424 batting average, 539 OBP. And everyone's like, oh no, but that's not realistic. But in our heads, we're like, oh, but what if it is? And so there was a lot of helium. And then turns out, that's not who he was. Can't be that. So we kind of had a little bit of dip in the hype. Diego Cartaya had his time too, right? So Cartaya, and everyone was thinking he was the next in line. Well, Rushing's jumped over him. I feel like they got to be around the same age at this point. I don't really know actually, but
Yeah, Rushing will be 24 in February. Wait a minute. Weirdly enough, I want to say Rushing and Ford have exactly the same birthday. I'm gonna let you keep talking as I
okay, yeah, we'll do that birthday
this.
research, buddy. And then I will. Yeah, no. Here's the deal. Will Smith. I don't think he's like going anywhere. He's not old either. So I think it's very prudent and very wise that the Dodgers have all but formally moved Dalton Rushing to the outfield. We saw last year in AAA, he got 27 reps at left field, 6 at catcher. Folks, I still see people kind of like holding out hope. That's not the ratio you're gonna want. That's not the ratio you're gonna get. It's crazy. I'll see like the same people saying Basayo has no chance at sticking that catcher, but then they'll say no. But you never know with Rushing. I'm like, well, I know who's on your team. I know who
Well,
you have on fantasy
look
teams.
at payroll. They just paid Will Smith, right? Like
Yeah, well,
they said for the next 4 years, Will Smith is our primary catcher.
catcher's not something where if you need them to hone their defensive capabilities, which you do for any catcher, you're not taking them off the job in the minors. Messiah was getting the same steady amount he's been getting. He's been getting always like 2/3 catcher, 1/3 DH or first base, and then Rushing. You're seeing like almost all of his reps now are in the outfield, and he's a power bat. It's because his bat is too valuable to have him sit behind Will Smith. So yeah, we're gonna see him in the outfield. I've seen a Schwarber comp before. I like that. I think that's a really obviously high outcome. Carlos Pena would be an unbelievable outcome. You look at his MVP season. Sorry, he didn't have an MVP season, but he actually got votes. 46 home runs, 121 RBI, 282 batting average, 411 OBP. Put those numbers out of your head. That sounds a little bit crazy, but who knows? I think
What club was that with? Because he bounced around a lot.
that was with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Tampa, yeah.
Remember he got traded in Moneyball at some point? No, that was to Detroit, and then he was in the movie Moneyball. Remember he was with Oakland, and
Then he was
then
Cubs.
they sent him to Detroit. Anyway, he went around to a lot of teams actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, I think we're seeing 30 plus home runs here. Put him in a Dodgers lineup. What the heck does that mean for his RBI?
Yeah, no
Right? And so Rushing, what are his numbers looking like lately? We're seeing an okay batting average. I think we see 250 or less on average for batting average. I think it's kind of maybe a Max Muncy type. I don't know about the platoon split. We know Muncy's pretty much purely a platoon guy at this point, but I could see a really nice OPS league play. He basically plays in every league, other than BA only, where he takes a little ding. As long as he stays 250 or higher, though, that's still fine, especially if he's mashing like that. I think people are really underestimating Dalton Rushing. I'm in the middle of doing my prospect ranks right now. I kind of slacked. Life got crazy. I'm really curious to see where Dalton Rushing ends up on my ranks. I got the tab open here. Let's see where he is. Yeah, I have him pretty high up there. I have a hard time imagining he can't be anything less than a top 20 prospect at this point.
Well, and the mindfulness too that yes, he'll probably lose the catcher eligibility, but he may be the backup catcher. He may be the third catcher. He
I
might
don't
get
even care about it. I don't even care about it.
But for at least the first season, he will have that dual
That's a good point.
eligibility, right? So, you and I talked about Wilson Contreras moving off catcher to first base for St. Louis. He kind of the same thing. You're looking at a volume approach there, right? With Contreras, I'd say the same thing with rushing. Oftentimes, you're lucky to get 120 games out of your catcher. Well, what if you can get 140 out of these guys because they are playing in a different position, and that's that volume play. Yeah, rushing is very exciting. And, you talked about the model loved him. What else do you have on him?
I'm just looking at his splits right now, and I want to really see this. Yes! Oh my gosh, we're so underrating him. Dude, he hits lefties and righties the same. He's got that's so good. 272 BA, 269 BA, 382 OBP, 393 OBP. Dude, this guy could be like an all-star.
Yeah.
Yo, we're okay. We're underrating him. I was thinking Max Muncy. No, if his splits are like that, people aren't talking enough about Dalton rushing. I got some trades to make, I think.
I think, honestly, a really non-sexy comp is Michael Busch that they traded away.
I think he's going to be better.
I mean, 250 with 25 home runs is good, right? So if you're saying better, I'm on board with that.
Well, what's his OBP, right?
I want to say Bush's OBP is very, very good. I want to say that's one of the big drawbacks with Michael Busch.
You know what? He must have finished stronger than I thought. 335. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Great rookie. Hey, he's a rookie. He's an older rookie, but he was a rookie. He had 21 home runs, 248 OBP, 335 OBP. If you can build on that a little bit, he gets up to 25 home runs, stick around the 250 BA. Honestly, I don't even really care. Like if you can just get that up with a better lineup around him, get those counting stats up, Michael Busch, that'd be cool. But yeah, Dalton rushing, especially in that Dodgers lineup, and they got a spot in the outfield for him. I think they got a spot for him next year.
Yeah, they need that bat in the outfield.
Yeah, they need it after a World Series win. They need it really badly.
Teoscar, they are losing Teoscar, if I am correct, free agency. So like you said, there will be opportunity.
So fun.
Okay, moving on. Miguel Rodriguez for Baltimore. We have another youngster here, getting a Ken Caminiti comp. Yikes, that's pretty impressive. But I think this falls in line with what you were saying about Tate, which is younger numbers are providing the model with more to pump. A 115.6 WRC plus expected, 19 home runs, 8 stolen bases. Just what the Baltimore Orioles need as well, Doc, is more prospects and more catching prospects. What are your thoughts on Rodriguez?
Yeah, a guy I don't really know much about, but seems kind of similar to how they're treating Basayo in that they're giving him quite a bit of first base reps. And actually, in A-ball, they gave him more first base than catchers, so this may be a pure first baseman at the end of it all. It's more of a split. We'll see. He's still young. He's 18. He played this year as an 18-year-old. Seems like his birthday is probably around the time the year starts, December 29th. Pretty dead on. The happy incoming birthday, sir. Goodness. So yeah, he looks like he's he walks more than he strikes out so far in the lower minors. He's got a little bit of pop. I don't know much about the guy. He clearly has an interesting profile. Ignore the stolen bases. He seems to get caught quite a bit. He's trying it out. He's figuring out who he is. It looks to me, just based on usage alone, hey, one of these situations where, can I have an update, please, Baseball Reference? I'm seeing 160 pounds here. Gonna go ahead and guess he's not 160 pounds. 5'11", 160. I don't know what that is, because if you lock that in as when he got signed from Venezuela, I don't know. Is he 6'1", 200 now? Like, what is he? So a lot of unknowns here, but that's a name to write down for deeper leagues. I didn't really know who he was, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Right on board with what you said there. Deeper leagues, definitely a guy that the model likes and is worth a flyer, but as it currently stands, not enough data for us to really get excited. But the next 3 names are the opposite, right? We have a couple breakouts from 2023. We have a breakout from 2024. And these 3 names, I think, are solidifying themselves more and more. Number 8 is Thyron Lorenzo, now of the Detroit Tigers. Big time acquisition at the deadline after losing some of his prospect pedigree early in the season for the Dodgers. Lorenzo played pretty well coming over in that deal. Scout the Statline is also bullish. CJ Crone is the comp, so we're seeing a lot of power in the projections. 118.8 WRC plus, 242 batting average, 342 on base percentage, 26 home runs is the expectation. Doc, what are your thoughts on Lorenzo?
Needs to put it together for a whole season. He's 21 now. He'll be turning 22 next season. They were slow rolling him in LA and Detroit. They got Brasino in Detroit as well. Not sure what to make of him because, yeah, he's actually, I was super high on him. Came out in LA, though, struggling, striking out way more. Power was down. Then he came over to Detroit. In 26 games, he had 5 home runs, which was almost as much as he had over 74 games with LA. But both his ratios were way up. He started walking more than he struck out again. Not sure what happened there. Very strange, right? We can talk all we want about farm systems and how some organizations do better than others, but somehow the Tigers are getting more out of his bat than the Dodgers. Doesn't make much sense to me. Maybe he needed a little change of scenery. I don't know the guy personally. That said, I'm excited for him. I think it's a time to buy. Looks like the Dodgers were starting to give him quite a bit of reps at first base. Still more at catcher, though, so they weren't giving up on him. Tigers did not give him a single job at first base. They gave him some DH work. It'll be interesting, man. I'm not as high on him as I was last year. I have more question marks, but as a soon-to-be 22-year-old who will be hitting Double-A this year, if he doesn't hit Double-A, things went terribly wrong. This is kind of I won't say make or break, but it's a pivotal year for his development. And so if you want to buy in, now's a good time. People might look at the overall numbers and ignore that he came on hot to end the season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and definitely more of an acquirable piece than he was at the 2023 offseason mark, where people were pegging him as the next Basayo. Definitely not the same profile, right? Power over hit is pretty clear here. But I think he can be acquired in 20-man teams. Doc, are you sending some flyers?
I'm trying to see. I traded him away after getting a great deal for him last year, and I don't remember what they were. So we're gonna find out, right? I'm gonna announce it live on air if I lost or won these deals. I know I won the first deal. Let's take a look. Lorenzo. We're gonna do a little Control F for those at home. I got him originally. Wow, that's a great deal. I got a round 3 and Lorenzo for Drew Rasmussen and a round 5 theft. Grand larceny. I was so happy with that. So it's interesting. I would have traded him away here. Did I really do that? I traded him back to the same team. Hilarious. Yeah, this might be something where I kick myself later. I got rid of Eloy's salary. This is our league. Mm-hmm. I picked up Jock Peterson and Mitch Garver and a prospect who didn't work out. But this is a weird one. So Peterson was my best offensive player last year. I was trying to make a push with my stacked pitching. And a 30-teamer, folks, Jock Peterson can make the difference. All right. And Mitch Garver was supposed to be not the worst player in Major League Baseball.
It wasn't good.
Wasn't good. So, no, went from and it's so funny. It was the same team. He was probably so happy to get him back. Yeah, so anyway, that's what his value was last year. Clearly just weird. I'm not sure if that actually helps any of you, but I think honestly he might be that piece now, where you might be able to get him as a throw-in because his value is not as concrete. And there are questions about Brasino there and Torkelson and what's happening at catcher or first base. I mean, yeah, they got some interesting pieces.
Yeah, and we're going to get to Brasino. He is at number 10. Before we do that, let's jump into Agustin Ramirez, who was formerly of the New York Yankees, traded to the Miami Marlins, or I guess if we are in the 25-man that we're drafting in right now, the Florida Marlins. I did like that little switch up for you, Doc. But Ramirez, big time exit velocities is what were reported out of the minor leagues. Yankees were talking about him as possibly being, a generational talent. All of that was seeming to be hype. Was moved 110.6 WRC plus is what Scout the Statline has him at peak projection. 324 on base percentage, 23 home runs. Really serviceable player, and I think someone that Miami desperately needs. Do you think he can actually make good on those projections?
So underrated, man. It's as soon as he went from the New York Yankees media hive mind to Miami's garbage heap of batting development, everyone was like, "Oh, who's that? I can't hear you." I'm like, "No, he's still the same guy." He didn't, Hey, I'm a little concerned that he went to Miami because I do not like their batting development. That said, he's kind of further along in his development at this point. He's not a finished product, so there's some reason for concern that they might stunt him. That said, his overall numbers on the year: 25 home runs in 126 games. That's a lot of power. He's got 30 plus power in that bat. And, in that same amount of games, 126, he had 93 RBIs. Another number that everyone hates. It's another stat. RBI, what are you from the 1870s? I don't know, man. It's like you gotta hit the run. You gotta catch the runs in. There's a certain skill set. When we watch the playoff baseball, there's certain guys, and they show how people do with runners in scoring position or runners on base in general. And there's some guys you feel more confident in. And if I see a guy who keeps mashing guys in, Pujols, at the end of his career, he wasn't the best hitter really, but he seemed to just have a knack for getting guys in. And so it's something to monitor. It's not like I'm saying, oh, he's going to be guaranteed an RBI masher forever, but 93 RBIs in a fairly short season is interesting to me, something to note. His batting average sunk down quite a bit when he went to AAA with the Yankees from 290 to 224. 372 OBP went down to 328, and that it met in the middle in Miami. So again, maybe it's all just psychological. Us kind of concerned about his development. His numbers got better in Miami when he went to AAA at least. So we'll find out how he does this year. I don't think the difference between AA and AAA is that immense. So, and I noticed that I've done some big research on Agustin Ramirez, and I noticed that at every level he goes to, he struggles for a little while. And then the next season or like later that season, he conquers it and becomes a machine. And he's done it repeatedly now. And that's almost more interesting to me than someone who just cruises the whole way. Like we see with Jackson Holiday, we're finding out that, okay, there's some fight because we saw him come back up, crush it after a terrible debut at the major league level. But then he started falling apart again. So we still have to see what his journey's like. We're seeing it happen every step of the way with Agustin Ramirez. So two things. One, that's encouraging long term. Two, watch out. He's probably going to struggle when he gets to the bigs. So meaning there will be multiple buying opportunities for Agustin Ramirez. I had him as a top 10 prospect at one point. Not sure if I can necessarily put him in there now with all this influx of talent. I will find out. I can't imagine knocking him as far as some people like barely have him in their top 100 or maybe I don't know if he's even in a lot of top 50s anymore. He was like the flavor of the week or something. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I had him a little higher than I probably should have. But I still like him. I like the profile. I like the opportunity that he'll get in Florida. And I think to your point, he's going to have a opportunity to drive in runs. Him and De Los Santos, they've clearly, as an organization, decided to go with some guys that have big time power so that they can actually hit it out of the ballpark there. I think that was an interesting organizational approach. They're telling us exactly what they want their lineup to look like and what they want to do. So they clearly believe in him and Santos, whether the fantasy community fully believes it or not. But I did have him ranked a little bit too high. I bought into the Yankees media hype. They're fantastic at spinning a narrative and turning up value.
I think
But
you're right about this one. I think they're right, but my issue isn't with that. It's with that they just like threw him by the wayside once he left the organization. I think he actually should be. I don't want to eat my own words here, but he's probably a top 20 prospect.
yeah, I mean, we're gonna hopefully find out this year. I would imagine he makes the major leagues. Maybe not at a camp, but it could be. And kind of like you were saying with Basayo, I think maybe by June for Ramirez.
I think so.
Okay, last one. Then we'll talk about a few names and wrap it up that are honorable mentions. You mentioned his name earlier. It's Josue Brasino. I think I pronounced that correctly. A little bit of a lost season. Only had 150 at bats. Did play in the Arizona Fall League. Big time hype coming out of 2023 as he had two levels, rookie as well as A ball. Total accumulation of 319 average in 2023, 7 home runs, 55 games. So again, there was excitement, but 2024 only saw 40 games, 2 home runs, batted 278. Again, had some lost time. This is really buying into the potential concept here. What are your thoughts on Brasino?
I've had a hard time getting as excited about him as a lot of other folks in the industry have. They're all crowning him. I've seen some really high rankings out there, top 20 for sure. And I'm just not. I'm like, how? There's so many other guys with more indication.
He smashed Fall League, but that
Mm-hmm.
is a concern, right? Like we've seen guys smash Fall League, and it's a bit of a mirage at times.
Hey, I'm not concerned about that. It's great if you can do it wherever you're doing it, do it. But people were hyped up before then, even like 2 home runs at 40 games in A ball. Like pretty good approach. We're gonna find out. It looks like his measure of patience and aggressiveness is a good. It seems like he's found a good window there. He's 6'4". It says he's 200 pounds. I'm willing to bet he's put on more since then. He could be one of those guys. I don't know how big he really is. It's so weird with these young guys from international regions. You just don't know what this listing is and when it's been updated to last. So, frankly, yeah, if this power in the fall league is for real, though, I started off pretty negative. Hey, I don't know why the hype's there. I mean, I guess I get it. He's got a great profile. But before this fall league, we didn't really see him put it together. And he's still playing at pretty low level. He's 20 now. He's a fresh 20. So he's still pretty young. We like to graduate these guys once they turn to 20. Yeah, they're old. But hopefully next year we can see more of him. He's only played 40 games at A-ball. I think he's done so well, though, throughout the minors. Challenge him. Start him at high A. Start him at high A as a 20-year-old after crushing fall league. See how he does. I think we'll have a way better idea at that point, because there are some guys who just they go from low A to high A, and even that's a struggle. So someone where there's still a lot of buying room, but just be wary of the hype. It might be a little bit. Maybe it's a good time to sell him. I don't know. Depends on what league you're in and who the biggest fan is.
Yeah, what your needs are, right? I mean, he's still, as you mentioned, a little bit of ways away.
Getting a lot of first base reps. He actually only played first base in the Arizona Fall League. That is worth noting.
Yeah, I mean, his Arizona fall was really impressive. Some really impressive exit velocities.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big kid, but I feel the same way you do. There's concern here. But
he might be too big. He might be so big they don't want him crouching down and getting up. If he could be 6'5" now. I don't know. You don't really see these monstrous catchers all the time. It's not unheard of, but I feel like
I think the right time to buy too probably was before the fall league, right? 2 home runs in the regular season, had a injury plagued year. This is not the time you want to be going out and buying. I think to what you were just saying, like this may be the time to be selling, if anything.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'd probably just hold them. I'd hold them for now. Because I mean, the fall league it feels like a million years ago. We move so fast with our news cycles. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's some people out there who I think I don't want to make things up. I could have sworn I've seen him as like a top 10 prospect. If you know a guy who views him like that, sell.
Yeah. All right, Doc. I'm hanging on by a thread, so we are gonna give us some honorable mentions.
Matt is under the weather, folks. He's not being lazy. He's not sleeping in. He's under the weather. He's a beast for doing this.
It's one of these colds where you get nauseous, and I absolutely despise those colds because it's like the nausea forces you to cough. I'm sure all of you just absolutely want to hear this, so don't worry, I'm here for you for that.
Okay, look at me smoke a cigar. Forget about the nasty
a little sage work.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna list off some names. I want you to kind of just tell me what you think. I'll go 2 by 2. First one, Carter Jensen, we talked about a little earlier, and Kyle Teal. 2 names that should be maybe starting catchers when Salvador Perez retires for Jensen, and then Kyle Teal for the Red Sox will be fighting with Wong for playing time. But what are your thoughts on both players?
Give me some of that Carter Jensen, bro. Get me some of that, bro. I was so busy. I basically didn't tweet in the month of the last couple months almost. It's been crazy. And Carter Jensen tore up the fall league. I probably should have been saying so. I think I might have even got in for one. I don't know if I did. Maybe I got a retweet in. But he did 4 home runs in 9 games. Walked almost as much as he struck out. 400, 523, these crazy ratios here, and 829 slugging. Just stupid. It's only 9 games. But this is not actually completely, definitely exaggeration, but it's not completely out of line with how he's been performing. He used to have these issues that we talked about of the way too patient approach with really elite or pretty solid OBP numbers and really bad batting averages. And this last year, at high A, he managed to find that sweet spot, mash a bunch. He ran into some issues at double A, 40 games. His ratios were pretty cruddy. But you could tell he wasn't just sitting here taking walks anymore, and he still hit 8 home runs in 40 games. Wow, that plays pretty well. For his first run as a 20-year-old, he is now 21. So, pretty, we kind of forget about it. It's the upper minors, 2021. It's kind of that awkward zone. Some guys crush it. Some guys, it's a challenge at that level. It is actually still, they are playing under the level. other lower age for the level. And just, his fall league, it did end with, I believe, some kind of arm injury. He got hurt at one point. From what I understand, he's better now. So no one seems to value him. He is the heir apparent. And it's not going to be Freddie Fermin. I like that kid. Don't think he's a long-term stud. Think he's fine. Could be a good backup. Maybe a utility guy. Put him at first or something. Carter Jensen is a catcher. He only plays catcher. He plays some DH. But even in the fall league, he only played catcher. So this is a guy who can offer you quite a bit of potential. I went way too long about him because I love him. And Middle America teams like the Royals, even though they make the friggin' playoffs, everyone wants to just forget about them. Oh, come on, get them out of here. It's bad for TV. Shut up. Shut up. You got your, especially now, shut up. You got your mega ratings. Get out of here. All right. Kyle Teal, though, speaking of mega markets, I'm never going to let it go. I like this one. Jason Varitek. He's Jason Varitek, where he's better for real life and useful for fantasy. Just going to be, he seems like an all-around good kid, good head on his shoulders. Nothing that's going to blow you away. Power, especially, maybe he's maxing out he has like a peak season at like 23 home runs, but doesn't go below like 17, 16 either. He's just like a guy. He mashes and he can hit the ball. He plays a good catcher defensively. So, yeah, I think he's going to get way. I think I would actually, if you have a Boston fan in your league, try to make that sell, especially as he's about to get promoted, or especially when he's right on the verge of promotion or gets promoted, sell him to a Red Sox fan immediately because he's going to be fine. He'll be a solid catcher. In deeper leagues, probably hold him, but anything like 12 to 14, you can probably make a nice profit from what he'll actually produce.
Yeah, we've seen catchers over the last few years take some time to develop.
I think he'll actually hit the ground running better than most, and that'll be fun. But I think his ceiling is it's more of a floor play in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, two more names for you. One is swinging back to the Royals, which is interesting because I would agree with you. Jensen is the heir apparent, and then they drafted Blake Mitchell, who I want you to just go ahead and start off with. Blake Mitchell, what are your thoughts?
Dude, they got him. They also have Ramon Ramirez, who's not on here, but he's like a kid coming out of the DSL last year. He was actually the only Royal in the top 100 of, I want to say, prospects live. He was like number 100. Which was a little premature in my opinion. He had a good year. He's showing some promise, and who knows, put him anywhere. But Blake Mitchell, people forget about him. He was the 8th overall pick in 2023, and he's been doing all right. He's looking like an all or nothing guy right now. He's still trying to figure out who he is. He's kind of doing what Carter Jensen used to do. He's taking tons of walks, which is great. Batting average needs some work. You can't be coming up like a 238, 232 batting average, right? You got to work on that. You got to be more aggressive. You just got to be able to make contact at a better rate than that, because that's not going to stick in theory. It's not going to stick. It's not going to say 230 throughout the minors. It's going to go down from whatever your AAA batting average is. It's going to go down once you get promoted to the majors. Now, he had 18 home runs in 106 games last year as a 19-year-old, and he went actually up to high A. So he's making his moves. He just turned 20. So Blake Mitchell, he's not the sexiest option, but I think he's got potential, the upside. He's got a lot of the tools that Carter Jensen has. Some people say one of these guys is going to move over to third base or something like that. He played some third base in high school, I think. But it's weird. The Royals are just creating a catching factory for some reason. I guess they're ready for Sal to retire at any given moment. Thanks for trading him to me. I feel confident after saying that.
I mean, he should have at least one more good season. Okay, last name on the list before we say goodbye. I just wanted your thoughts on Ethan Salas. He is coming in for Scout the Statline on peak projections at 18 years old, a 101.3 WRC plus, 18 home runs, 10 stolen bases. A big-time drop-off in his prospect shine in this 2024 season. A little bit of injury, a little bit of lack of production, still only 18 years old. What are your thoughts on Salas?
Well, I'm not sure if everyone can hear the sirens in the background, but those are the sirens concerning the downfall of Ethan Salas. His career's over. Bust. Get him out of here. What were we thinking? Maybe not. He's 18 and 100 days old. It's still a kid. We got a little excited, and I still I hold on to what these Padres were saying about him, the major leaguers. The hype was off the chain. I don't know why these players would feel compelled to say something like feels like he's a veteran at 17 years old. I don't know why they would just make that up. I don't think the GM's telling them to say things. You know. That said, yeah, his numbers have been lackluster. He looks better at fall league. You know, was taking some walks, looking solid, not striking out as much. Power was looking a little bit better in the fall league. At the end of the day, he's an 18-year-old at high A. You know, it's crazy he was up to double A when he was 17 like this. What were we doing, right? That's insane. The Padres are such a weird organization. Yeah, it's like sometimes they seem like they're like geniuses and great development system. The other times they're like, what's happening here? No, what? What are you doing? And so we'll find out with Salas. I mean, dude, here's the thing. If we had to wait 3 more years for him to make the bigs, he's still just 21 years old. We're talking about guys like, you know, Carter Jensen, I think will be 21 next year. And I'm still considering him young, right? You know? So, but with Salas, just because he's been in our head for so long now, there's going to be a lot of people who are knocking down his value. Send some offers out right now in this offseason.
Yeah, and we talked about Lorenzo turning 22. Age is all over the place. I think what is really important is for us to gauge the value that this current individual has in a prospect dynasty format. I think Salas doesn't have the same value he had last year, but I don't think he lost as much as some would think. The problem is he could completely tank in 2025 and then lose almost all value, or he could have a really solid season and regain form. You know, I think 2025 will be a really key moment in his development. Doc, that's all I really have for us today. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we say goodbye?
Yes, sir, Bob. It's great to be back, folks. We're going to keep it coming. We'll have more consistent podcasts in the coming weeks. I'm your Huckleberry.
We will see you guys next week.